Countless hours of productivity are lost when our employees cannot resolve just minor issues by themselves. In fact, one global survey of remote workers during this coronavirus pandemic found that productivity dropped by as much as 70% among employees working from home just because they lacked basic technology know-how. Now, an obvious solution in this scenario seems like you just offer more technology training to remote workers, right? Well, a recent study found that nearly half of American workers received no remote training since the pandemic began. What's worse is that from those who did, a third of them found it to be ineffective. Now that's a serious problem. We don't want our remote workers to be struggling with technology training because then they will be less productive and less satisfied in their jobs. At VisualSP, we're often talking with organizations that are struggling with providing technology training for their remote work teams. Here are the 5 of the most common issues that we hear about. Number 1, application overload. Did you know that average companies use 129 software programs, and then the average worker uses about 10 applications daily? That's quite a lot. I mean, that quantity of tools can be a real headache when it comes to training and remembering how to use each tool effectively. It is usually practically impossible for internal training teams to provide useful guides for all these software applications. Even if they could provide it, they would only be able to offer high-level guidance rather than the more specific tips and problem solving that end users usually need. Number 2, training is usually provided out of context. A major problem for remote training is that it happens out of context. I'll give you an example. Employees join, let's say, a webinar. They're given examples of how to use a program. However, they may not actually use that program in their daily tasks for several days or sometimes even months. This means that they're liable to forget much of what they learn. Training has much greater impact if it can be put into practice immediately, as we all know. Number 3, remote IT instruction is just too generic. See, instructors cannot be expected to offer personalized training for every attendee, right? That's just not practical. However, on the other hand, personalized training is often the most effective. Well, imagine your company chose to put a training session on for all your employees. It's about your internal HR system for requesting vacation, recording sick days, and so on. And then employees from various departments attend this training, see some examples of how to use this technology. All good so far, but now the problem, however, is that in most cases, employees will be looking for solutions to very specific problems that they have, and then things that they need to do, and not the generic use cases that they learned in training. For example, one person might need to request Monday afternoons off, let's say for next 6 months, to take care of an elderly relative. Meanwhile, you have a manager of a group of temporary workers who will want to know how to assign vacation days for staff who don't have access to the internal portal. Now, unless the training session can offer such very specific requests, it's going to be irrelevant to most people. Number 4, not enough practice and repetition is provided. We all know that practice and repetition is key for learning, but remote technology training does not work like that. Just demonstrating how to do certain tasks in an application is never enough. So employees need to be shown several times and within context of their application before they can truly understand their process. Number 5, long webinars are never as effective for remote workers. See, many companies choose to conduct their application training through long webinar sessions where an instructor shows how to use a program. We all know how difficult it is to focus when working from home, correct? Well, whether it's interruptions from a delivery person coming by, a dog barking, kids playing, a long training webinar is simply too difficult to focus on when people are in their home offices. It's just not as effective for remote teams. So, what is the solution, you might ask? Well, an innovative approach to this problem is called contextual microlearning. Instead of putting our employees through long, generic training sessions, Contextual microlearning involves making short and relevant pieces of learning content available right within an application. The kind of content would be relevant, like training videos, tip sheets, walkthrough guides. So rather than searching online or asking a colleague for help, users would get contextual training at the exact moment where it is needed. Let's face it, remote working is here to stay, and companies need reliable, effective technology for their staff who are away from the office. So we have seen this with our own customers at VisualSP, that failing to provide effective support and training to employees can have serious productivity problems and high rates of employee frustration. Let's empower our employees. Let's give them the best opportunities for learning at their moment of need. If you need help with this process, let's talk through it and see if we can help. Thanks for watching.